Hey, all my drawing buddies, welcome back, and today we are going to draw Spider-Gwen. Spider-Gwen's first appearance was in Edge of Spider-Verse number 2 from 2014. That's a series where they pretty much acknowledge that in every universe there's a Spider-Man and they're all different. So every Spider-Person or Spider-Man or Spider-Woman that you saw in a movie, a TV show, another comic book, a manga, whatever. You made it up in your notebook. That exists as a Spider Person. Spider-Man 2099, Miles Morales, all of them. They all exist. And she is a variant of Spider-Man where instead of Peter Parker getting bit by the spider, Gwen Stacy got bit. I would like to apologize, everybody, if I sound a little funny. I got a bit of a cold. I went out with some friends and I brought it back with me, so I apologize if I sound a little nasally and noisier than usual. But the show must go on, and I need a video to go for Friday, and Spider-Gwen is the winner. Gwen Stacy was sort of like an obvious choice, I would think, to be a Spider-Person to go with Peter Parker because their relationship was so tragic. If you don't know, Gwen Stacy was Peter Parker's girlfriend before Mary Jane. And they were together for a long time. She was the cool mod girl. He was the geeky science kid. And they got together, and they were together for a very long time. And then I believe it was 70s, and Amazing Spider-Man number 121, I believe it is. She's kidnapped by the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin throws her from one of the pillars of the Brooklyn Bridge. So Spidey jumps into action, shoots the webs, and when the web grabs her, she snaps. The recoil from the webs and catching her from such a hard fall breaks her neck, and Gwen Stacy dies. And that's something that haunted Peter still haunts Peter to this day because he couldn't save her. And so after that, the next issue, he gets to fight with the Green Goblin, and he actually kills the Green Goblin, who, of course, has come back many times. But that was the start of the whole thing. So when they brought her back as a Spider-Person, it was obviously very jarring for Peter to see her again and to see her alive. And it's not just a clone or some other random thing that they've done to mess with him in the past. That was a real Gwen Stacy from another universe, and she was a Spider-Person just like him. And I think this Peter Parker in her universe wanted to be a hero too, and he injected himself with some chemicals that he created, and he became that universe's Lizard. So he became a villain, and I believe he died in a fight with her. So she's really in the same boat with Peter because Peter couldn't save his Gwen Stacy, and she couldn't save her Peter Parker. So it's kind of like a tragic loop. And I think eventually they don't get together or anything or reconcile or try anything like that, but she does end up with Miles Morales for a while. I don't know if they still are because I read it on and off back when he came on because I really loved her costume design, and that's why I chose to draw her. Yeah, this drawing goes by fairly quickly because it's just a pretty simple front-on pose of her just kind of looking badass. Another one of these poster poses, and I do the background with a building copy and put it all together. Plus her suit has a lot of black to it, so you don't actually have to pencil in a lot of details. So but I was going to draw her with the mask on, which would have been even quicker, but I decided that you need to see her face because she has the cool haircut and she's kind of punk rock and emo all at the same time, and so I decided I needed to do that part of her character instead of just hiding behind the mask. And basically it's cheating because she doesn't wear her mask all the time, and it would just be a quick way for me to get out of drawing a face for a video, so it takes no time at all to put two spider eyes on a white background. Another thing I like about Gwen is that she's a musician. She plays the drums in a band called the Mary Janes. I'm going to have to look up where the actual Mary Jane Watson is in the her universe because I have no idea. But the band's called the Mary Janes, which I think is kind of hilarious as a nod to her and probably pot. And they call her Spider-Woman in her universe, but they call the title Spider-Gwen, and then later Ghost Spider, they rename her. I think she comes into 616, the main Marvel universe eventually. But they don't want to confuse her with Jessica Drew, the original Spider-Woman from 1978, I believe she first appeared. She's got the red and yellow costume, and her powers aren't really like Spider-Man's. They're more of a telekinesis kind of thing and super strength, I believe. But don't quote me on that. I have to look it up. It's been a while since I read a Spider-Woman book. But so to avoid confusion, they call her Spider-Gwen, kind of like as, a funny nod in the title. And then later when they gave her another title instead of Spider-Gwen, because that's not her actually official name, nobody calls her that. They called her Ghost Spider because there was already a Spider-Woman in the regular 616 Marvel Universe. So actually there's two Spider-Women. There's Jessica Drew, and then I forgot the other one's name. But she's much cooler looking because she's got the black suit and her hair comes out of the top of the thing, and she's got it's just a cool look. Maybe I'll draw her one of these days because I really like the look of that costume. But I got plenty of drawings lined up for now, so she would be far in the future. Yeah, so the Ghost Spider name came from kids Disney Kids cartoon with it's got Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Gwen. They call Peter Parker, he's obviously Spider-Man. Then they call Miles Spins, so you don't confuse the two because they both use the Spider-Man name in the regular universe. And then they call her Ghost Spider because, Spider-Gwen would give away her identity, and the Spider-Woman name's already taken by Jessica Drew, so to be able to make a new toy, they called her Ghost Spider. So when they gave her another title, I think her third series or whatever, they called her Ghost Spider instead of Spider-Gwen or Spider-Woman, and it stuck. Not my favorite name for her, but I don't make these decisions. The guys at Marvel do. And like Peter Parker in the regular Marvel universe, she's also sort of a tragic character because in her universe, she's blamed for the death of Peter Parker and her father. He's the police chief. If I said this already earlier in the video, I apologize. But he's the police chief of her universe and our regular universe, but he dies. But anyway, in her universe, he is hunting her for murder, looking for Spider-Gwen for murder, and it's his daughter, and she can't just tell him because, duty and all that other stuff, and she's afraid that, he won't love her anymore, and he'll push her away or try to put her in jail because he has to do his job. And I don't know if they ever resolved that storyline. They probably did since she's been out for, 11 years now. So we'll see how that goes, or if it did, put in the comments and let me know because I haven't read anything since probably 2016, 2017. As for the drawing portion of this video, you can see that I flipped her again horizontally so that I could see things I don't like with the pose or with her face or if her eyes are a little weird or if her head's crooked, because that's the kind of stuff you can't really see when you're looking straight on with a drawing. I talked about this in the Batman video because I did the same thing, because it looks right to you, and then you flip it and you're like, oh my god, she's crooked and slanted to the left or right, and her eyes aren't even, and it's like looking at a whole new drawing. And I also go over her face a few more times with moving her nose around, her lips and everything. I don't settle on that till the very end. But yeah, this is an important part when you're drawing things. When you're drawing in a notepad or you're drawing on paper, the easiest way to do it is just to flip it upside down, because then you'll see those same mistakes. And sometimes if you draw things upside down when you're practicing, it gives you a whole new perspective on the art thing, because you're drawing more of an abstract drawing than an actual face or a body, and it helps you learn proportions and stuff like that. And another way to do the flipping thing, if you're working with paper and pen and ink and all that stuff and real pencils, is if you have a light box, you flip it over on the light box and you can make the corrections and flip it over again and transfer them to the other side. I use my iPad as a light box. There's an app for it, and it puts it up to its maximum brightness, and it works out pretty well. I used to have a really big light box. I got it at a flea market for like $5, but it broke when I was moving, and so it went to the landfill, unfortunately. But I wouldn't mind getting another one. I was a tattoo apprentice for a while until I decided it wasn't for me, and they had this giant light box table there because when you're doing that kind of art and you're doing tattoos, you got to get things done quick, and you got to transfer all your drawings onto transfer paper. So you end up with a giant light box, and it helps a lot when you're moving things around and getting the drawings ready to actually transfer to a human body. But again, that wasn't for me, so Another thing about this drawing is I actually did it a while ago. It was ready before Spawn. It was ready before Chaco. But for whatever reason, I decided I want to put those out first, just because they were different. Not that she isn't different, but she's just more of a straight-on look-at-me kind of pose. There's nothing overly dynamic about her, but I like it, so I went with it. In fact, if I ever do her again, I'm going to do more of a dynamic, either a swinging, but I did that with Spider-Man, so there's a drawing I want to do with them perched on top of a roof, like on a post. It's kind of an iconic Spider-Man thing. And I think I'm going to do a group picture eventually of some characters or a group of characters in a similar thing, just the whole rooftop looking up at them all being cool and badass. But that's for the future. Like the Superman drawing I'm working on, that'll come out the week before the Superman movie comes out, or the week of the Superman movie. He's fighting one of his more popular cop beat characters, an evil version of himself from another universe. A friend of mine told me I'm going to upset some people with it who really like that character, but I already penciled it, so it's going out, and nothing I drew isn't factually correct or anything. It just Superman wins the fight as far as the drawing goes, and that might upset the fans of the other character, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because if you've watched any of my other videos, and when I talk about Superman versus, because I have in a few for some other reason, I think Spawn and whatnot, because of power levels, you'll know that I'm a firm believer that when Superman fights a character from another universe that's on his power level, Superman always wins, because he's the originator, he's the first, he's the embodiment of hope in his universe. So Superman always wins, even against Goku. Sorry, Goku guys, but him and Vegeta are on the list too, because my son's a big fan of Vegeta. He's watched pretty much all of Dragon Ball. And with that, the pencils are done, and now we're going to ink Spider-Gwen, or Ghost Spider, or Spider-Woman, or whatever you want to call her. But I'm going to stick to Spider-Gwen, because that's where I found her, and that's the name she was given when I was reading it, so we're going with it. Another thing about her that I found interesting is one of her villains is Daredevil. Daredevil's a villain in her universe. I should probably look up what universe that is number-wise, but if you watch my other videos, you'll notice that Daredevil was the second video I did, because he's my favorite comic character overall, and it timed out perfectly because the show was ending and gave me a chance to do a Daredevil video. But I could probably do 3 or 4 more and still talk about new Daredevil stuff, same as Batman from last week. I could probably do 3 or 4 more of those and get it done. And again, I apologize for the way I sound in this video, because I got the cold and I've had to stop and restart a whole bunch of times and cut things because my voice keeps cracking and I'm sounding really nasally. Or the roosters down the street start going off, and I live in sort of a city, so it's weird that one of the houses have roosters in the backyard, but I guess with egg prices and everything with all that, it's cheaper to have your own chickens these days. Actually, on a completely unrelated tangent, that same house, I was going to do the recording for this video a couple days ago, and it was on the weekend, and that house had a party, and they kept going all night. I'm surprised nobody called the cops on them. I mean, I wasn't going to, but the cool thing was that they had like a salsa band, or a mariachi band, and they played all night, and it was actually really good. I actually left the window open, and I just chilled out and listened to the band for a while, so I wasn't mad that they were up all night, because I don't sleep much anyway, but it was pretty cool. Would have been cooler if they had the Mary Janes playing with Gwen on drums, but that would be kind of hard considering she's a fictional character. I went back and looked up a little bit about Mary Jane from Earth 65, and apparently she started the Mary Janes with Gwen, and Gwen screwed up the first major gig by being late because she was superheroing, and then the Rhino crashed the party, and I guess Mary Jane sort of resents Gwen for that, and she's angry and prideful, so they've had issues since, and eventually Mary Jane of Earth 65 becomes a version of Carnage, and they clash and they fight, and part of one of the storylines that I don't remember what happened really, but I do remember the covers, and Spider-Gwen actually becomes a version of Venom called Gwenom. And that's a really cool design because it's leans into the whole punk rock leather jacket look. Back when Gwen was popular, well, first becoming popular, it was before the pandemic, and I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that in these videos, but anyway, before that, I was going to a lot of Comic Cons. I was going to New York Comic Con every year. I still go to my local cons and all that, and I set up there, but I never set up at New York because I can never get a table because I'm not that cool. But a friend of mine who would go to these cons with me, she would cosplay as Spider-Gwen, and she did a few different variants of her, and one of them was like a punk rock version. We were at one of the New York Comic Cons. They had this really cool fake leather Spider-Gwen jacket with her colors on it, and it looked sort of like her costume, but it was a fake leather jacket. And so she got that, and she wore some cut-off shorts and fishnets and a shirt that we cut, and we wrote Mary Jane's on it like haphazardly in marker and everything, and with the wig. And it was a pretty cool cosplay. I mean, I should have drawn Gwen looking like that. That would have been pretty cool. But I guess that's for another video, because I'm sure some of these characters I'll be drawing again, because there's only so many out there that I think people would actually want to watch a video for. Because I think if I did a video on Captain Ultra, nobody would know what the heck it was. Captain Ultra is an obscure Marvel hero who can do anything he puts his Ultra mind to. He's kind of like a Superman, but he also suffers from the same flaw that Martian Manhunter does, is he's afraid of fire. He auditioned for the Frightful Four in his first appearance, and he was killing it because he was doing like Superman stuff, and like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. He needs to be part of our villainous team to take on the Fantastic Four. But the problem was, I think one of the other members, I forgot which one, lit a match, and he just fainted. And that was the end of his supervillain career. And he's made a few appearances since. I don't know if he made any modern appearances. The last time I saw him was in an issue of Marvel Comics Presents where he's a stand-up comedian and something happens and he has to save the day, putting his Ultra Mind to solving the problem and using his powers. And he's one of those funny joke characters, and he has a terrible costume. He would actually be really fun to draw. I might do him and make a video that nobody watches, but it'll be fun for me. So if anybody wants to see that video, let me know, because I would gladly draw Captain Ultra. And also, would anybody want to see indie characters? Because like my favorite character of all time is Scud the Disposable Assassin from the 90s by Rob Schrab and Fireman Press. And one of the writers of that story who helped out Rob Schrab was Dan Harmon, the creator of Rick and Morty. So Dan Harmon got his start doing Scud. And when Scud went on hiatus for its last issue for like 9 years, which is something we'll talk about when I do a Scud video, because I'm going to do that whether you want it or not. They ran off to Hollywood and started their career together, and they did a movie called Monster House. Dan Harmon and Rob Schrab wrote it, and they're still good friends. And Rob Schrab writes on Rick and Morty every now and then, and so there you go. If you didn't know any of that, you know where Dan Harmon and Rick and Morty got his start now. And these inks are going along super fast because, I mean, she really just wears white and black. And I don't have her hoodie up because actually that would have been cool if I put her hoodie up. But it's already drawn, so we can't change that now. And the other thing about Gwen is her webbing on her costume. It's a magenta background with cyan webs, so you can't draw it. Well, you could draw that in the black, but I save it for the coloring stage, so you'll see those come in when we get to that part. And I'm still messing with her face because I'm not happy with certain parts like the lip placement and whatnot. And it's okay to change things this late in the drawing, because if you're doing it and you're just not happy with something, fix it. You want to have the best drawing you could have. You want it to be the best work you could do. It's not always going to be perfect, and like I said, perfect is boring anyway, but you want it to be good. And if you think her eye's crooked or her lips are too big or you don't like the flow of her hair, change it. It doesn't take that long once you get hair. And if you're doing it on an iPad or a drawing tablet or an Android tablet or whatever you got, but also remember, you got to finish your drawings, because the only bad drawing is an unfinished drawing, even if it's a good drawing, because if it's not finished, then there's nothing to it. And what's the point if you're not going to finish it? Like this drawing, it's not the most dynamic one I've ever done, but it's a pose I wanted to draw, so I just kind of went with it. It could have been more dynamic in the end, but you know, I'm still happy with it. It's just standing there. It's almost a little flat, but the colors give it some dimension. But you know, she's not like coming at you. It's not looking up at her. It's not looking down at her. And here you can see I just totally redrew her nose because I wasn't happy with it. And that's another thing that I just mentioned a few seconds ago. If you don't like it, it's never too late to fix it. But I still felt she was good enough to share, and I took it to the end, just like every other drawing, because not finishing it makes it not good, because you can't do anything with an unfinished drawing. And here I go through the whole process of showing you how I make the backgrounds from a photo of a city, because it's just a matter of adjusting the brightness and contrast on a black and white image to make it look sort of like it's a drawing, and I build that into the coloring of this drawing. So here I am just placing it where I want it. I think I flip it and do some other things, and then I come back to it when I get to the colors. And the reason I left that little section in where I actually adjust the levels and whatnot is because I kind of didn't show that in the Batman one, and I spent more time on the Batman one as far as how I used it, because in the Batman one I colored sections in lighter and darker, so there was more separation than there is in this one, because this one's very black and it's only one building, so I just kind of left it the way it was. And here you go, inks are done, and we're gonna move on to the colors. And the coloring on this one is really fun because, you know, I got to do the webs in color, and again, it also goes quickly because there's really not much to her. She just got some blue that we had some highlights to, and some webs and some fleshy colors, and her blonde hair. And the background, of course, we work more on the background. I decided I wanted to know what was going on with the Daredevil of their Earth, since I read very little Spider-Gwen at the beginning. And I looked him up, and it's a pretty cool origin. It's pretty much the same as the original one, with a few minor differences. Like Silvermane was the boss who had his father killed. His mother wasn't Mary the nun. She was a paralegal, I guess. And he was taken in by Stick after his father was killed. And they went after the Hand, except for him and Stick lost. And the Hand took him in, and they taught him their martial arts and whatnot. And then he became consumed with vengeance, and he became more of a kingpin. Actually, he took the kingpin's place after Spider-Gwen, Gwen Stacy's father, arrested the kingpin. In fact, when I mentioned that the Rhino busted into the first Mary Jane show, Matt Murdock set that up as revenge for arresting the kingpin on him. He wanted to avenge his boss. Another random thing that has nothing to do with drawings, I noticed when I put my iced tea can down on my table, the boom arm that I have the microphone on works almost like a reverb tank, a spring reverb, and it gives you a nice hollow reverb while it buzzes out, and I have to wait for it to stop before I can start recording again. So that just adds to the fun of my voice cracking and the other things that I'm going through with this voiceover. But we're getting there, and we're pretty much almost to the end, which is nice. I mean, it's not nice. I mean, I like talking to y'all, but with the cold and everything, I have to keep stopping and starting and cutting in on sentences because my voice keeps cracking. This is probably the fourth or fifth time I mentioned that throughout this video, so I do apologize for that. And we can't talk about Gwen Stacy and Spider-Gwen without talking about the Edge of the Spider-Verse movies. Those are the Spider-Man animation featuring Miles Morales, and it kind of deals with the whole Spider-Verse and all the alternate Spider people. And Gwen is, we'll call her the second lead in that movie, and she's voiced by Haley Steinfeld. In that movie, in Miles' universe, his Spider-Man, his Peter Parker, is like perfect. You know, he's got blonde hair, he does the right thing. I'm pretty sure he's voiced by Chris Pine, which gives a cool voice to Peter Parker. And Miles gets his powers when he gets bit by a spider in a sewer, but apparently that spider wasn't from his universe, but you find that out in the second movie. And because of that, his Spider-Man dies before he could train him, so he's on his own. And the Kingpin is working on a device to bring back his dead wife, and that ends up bringing spider people in from other universes, including another Peter Parker who is less perfect, and he's with Mary Jane, but he's kind of failed a bit. He's on the outs with Mary Jane. He's got a bare belly. He's depressed, And then Gwen comes from her universe, and she's kind of like the voice of reason. She knows what she's doing, she has experience, and she kind of falls for Miles and becomes kind of the love interest, and that happens in the comics too. And then at the end of that movie, obviously, they stop the Kingpin and everybody goes back to their universe, and that's the end of that, and everybody's happy until the second movie, because it turns out there's a whole spider society, and the problem with Miles is he's not supposed to exist. The spider that bit him came from another universe, and then on the universe that his spider came from, Miles becomes the Prowler, and the head of the Spider Society is Miguel, the Spider-Man 2099, and he's played by what the hell is that guy's name? Oh yeah, it's Oscar Isaacs. He was also Moon Knight, and he was Poe Dameron, and he was in that movie Being Llewyn Davis, I think it's called, where he's a folk musician back in the 60s. That was a good one. I actually like that movie, and I don't really like most of his movies, so I guess that's saying a lot. But I like most biopics about musicians, even if they're fictional, because as I didn't mention earlier, but when I was talking about Gwen being a musician, one of the reasons why I like her is because I'm also a musician. I play the piano. In fact, all the music you hear behind here is an album I put out this year, but I took all the vocals off. I'm not much of a singer, so I got through it, but it's as good as I could get at the time, and I decided I needed to get that done by my birthday, so I finished it and I released it, and I'm going to do another one this year too. And I got a funny Christmas song, and I started writing a weird country song too, even though I don't really listen to country music except for some old stuff like Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings and all that stuff. So I went with a ridiculous modern country song, but if you listen to country music, it might not be that ridiculous. So if you find it after I release it, let me know if it's ridiculous or not. So in the second Spider-Verse movie, Gwen's kind of torn because she's not supposed to contact Miles because he's not supposed to exist and he's an aberration, but she digs him, so she does anyway, and she brings him back to the Spider headquarters, and all mayhem breaks out, and they all try to capture him, but he gets away. But he ends up on the universe of the spider that bit him because he types in, the computer to take him home. But his DNA has been changed to the other universe because he got bit by the spider. And then at the end of that, it was actually kind of funny because they said coming in, I think, January or March the next year, which I think was 2025 this year or 2024. And I guess there were some problems with the animation studios, so they're working on it now, and it's going to come out, I think, either next year or the year after, and hopefully it'll live up to the hype because the animation's amazing in that. And something I found weird was that the movie that they made before Edge of Spider-Verse, the animation studio that made Spider-Verse, they did the Emoji movie before that, so it's like a night and day difference in animation quality and all the chances they took, and the way they animated certain things to skip frames and whatnot, especially with Spider-Punk. They went all in on him, and he's kind of a badass character. In fact, I'm going to do a 3D print of him soon so I could paint it up and finish it. So we'll see how that story ends in a year or so when they finish the movie. And I'm sure Gwen will still play a big part in that because she puts together her own Spider Society at the end to help Miles. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes with them clashing with Miguel's Spider Society and see who wins. Obviously, it'll probably be her Spider Society because, it's Miles' movie and they're there to help him. With this one, you see that I went with dark, with highlights and shadow on her face instead of just picking one and going with it. And plus, when you're drawing women characters, even guy characters to an extent, you want to put a little red into it or pink and blush on their nose, on the cheeks and the ears, because it makes them look more realistic and like they really exist instead of just having a flat, fleshy color or a peach or whatever. Even if you're doing characters of color, it helps because, you just don't want two flat colors and call it a day. You want it to look like there's blood underneath it and capillaries and all that other stuff. And the cheeks and the nose and the ears is usually where that stuff kicks in. And the thing I like to do with hair is I just like to do a big clump of one color and then use a darker and lighter color to show you where the folds are and where the hair is moving. I like it better than putting a bunch of black lines and dark lines in the hair. So usually when I do hair, it's just a big block of color. And works for me, so I'm going to stick with it. And here we pretty much reached the end of the Spider-Gwen drawing, so I thank you all for coming along. Do the whole like, comment, and subscribe thing, because I guess that makes me more visible on the YouTubes. And I'm just going to throw my signature on here, and you notice the texture is pretty heavy on her here, but I pull it back a little at the end. So once again, I thank you all for coming along for this ride of me drawing Spider-Gwen. I apologize for rambling and having a cold, but hopefully we'll be nice and healthy for the next one. And if you haven't already, go draw something, and I'll see you next week, our buddies.